Hi guys, it's Zoli here. I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to show you how I modded my Mavic Mini battery. So here's the battery, as you can see, and that's the first strip to be removed. Check that out. Oh yeah. Oh, that is so satisfying. Alright, so this lower casing is still quite stuck on the battery because there's a lot of glue in between, also on the bottom. Now I see it on the internet that they use the sharp blade to cut down at the edge and remove this whole casing. I decided to save it somehow, so I just sliced off the bottom. Be careful. Now this casing is still quite stuck on the battery, so I have to find some solution to remove, and this is what I come up with. I use a little wire. Maybe I should have used something non-metallic, but oh well. I use the side where the sticker is on the battery, because inside, as you will see later, this is the side where there are no leads going between the two battery cells, so I'm not messing up anything here. I just made a little hook on the end, so there is something to connect to, and here comes some good old-fashioned thread. There's nothing fancy really, so I just loop it around, hook it in, and thread it through carefully, of course, not to hurt the insulation on the battery cells. Now, if you have ever seen how windshields are being removed from cars, this is exactly how they do it. This glue in between this battery and the casing is some sort of a silicone, so it's soft, and by pulling this thread back and forth, I can actually free it from the housing, and it's done. That's how simple it is, and like that I didn't need to destroy this cover, which I'm going to use later. You see, the cells are absolutely intact, there's no damage whatsoever. Now the next step is to remove this black cap from the top of the battery, which is protecting the PCB. I have to be honest, this was an absolute pain. It's made of two parts. This is the seam, how the two parts are connected together. It goes all around and then up again, and then here are these two clips which also hold this stuff on. It's honestly really a pain to remove. There's a lot of glue under it. So what I came up with is to cut a piece of plastic from a box of a yogurt, and yeah, I just started to pry it and try to be as careful as possible, but you really have to push it. And no use of metallic objects here, please. It's because that's really a dangerous part. And well, you see that? Pop. I cracked it anyways. So after 20 minutes of struggling, I finally got it off. And yeah, it was really a painful cycle. Now, as you see that thin strand of glue. You see how strong that is? And this was completely glued on. You can see how much glue is in the cap. It's absolutely crazy. Here's the PCB with all its glory. Nasty glue. Alright, I'm gonna put in the battery to the drone just to check if I messed up anything with all this prying. I mean, of course not, but you know, just to be safe. It works absolutely fine. So that's the glue. If I would like to just piggyback another battery to this battery, then I wouldn't actually have to remove this black cap. Just drill two holes on the two ends and connect the two wires here. But I have other plans, so I start to remove this glue. Now if you see here these components, there are 3 capacitors and 2 resistors there, and then there is 1 resistor down there. Now, from this line outwards, in this circled area, which I'm showing right now, there are no other components on the PCB. So I didn't have to be really careful by removing this glue. This is all what I mean by this. So on the left side, I have the positive terminal here on the battery. And this is the negative or ground terminal on the battery. These two pins here on the connector are the positive part. These two are the ground or negative connections, and the outmost two are the two data connections to the drone. Checking the battery voltage, the cell voltage, as I see, it's 8.13, so the battery is almost fully charged up. All right, so from the positive terminal through these two MOSFETs, these two are actually MOSFETs, are coming the juice to the drone via these two pins in the middle. That's the path for the positive terminal. And the negative terminal, which is the ground, these two pins are connected to the ground terminal of the battery cell. Here in the middle, you see the red lead coming from the PCB down to the bottom of the batteries, which are actually connected in series. So those two are connected, and this is the balance lead, the red one, going up to the battery. And the black cables with that black dot is the thermistor, which is actually the temperature measurement. So this and this terminal and this terminal are the three terminals I actually need to use for the mod. Now, as you see, the PCB is covered in some sort of an epoxy. As far as I have other plans with this battery, I start to remove this epoxy. But just so you know, for this mod, this part is not essential now. But as you see, with some gentle prying, I can lift this epoxy. Of course, it's also better to use here something non-metallic. It's just pretty tough, but I get it going anyways. And yeah, it looks a little bit sketchy, like what if the epoxy is gonna pull up a component from the PCB. I have done it on 2 batteries yet, and nothing happened. The component stayed on the PCB, but yeah, it's still a risk. So now here, as I'm getting closer to the positive side of the battery also, I switch to a toothpick and just stick it under, push it in, kind of wedge it up. And the biggest part basically of this epoxy is gone from the PCB, which exposes also the pins for later use. So this is the battery I kind of cooked up. Yeah, you see the plus and minus terminals are connected there. So basically these two cells are in series. So there are the plus and minus terminals. I made sure that this external battery, so to say, is charged to the same voltage level than the original battery. You saw it was 8.12 and this is 8.12. I think this is important to make sure that there is any kind of shock on the PCB when I'm connecting this to LiPo batteries in parallel to the battery I have here. So I just connect here 2 leads. This is the positive end, and then I will put one on the ground terminal also on the negative end. So this is basically the piggybacking I mentioned in the beginning. You see that for this, actually I don't need to remove the black cap. If there would be just 2 big holes on the top of the black cap, I could reach those 2 soldered points and just stick these 2 wires in there. Just gonna thin the ends here before I can connect them to the LiPos. Of course, I have to be very careful with polarity. Plus goes to plus. The cardboard you see between the two lipos is just to make sure that those two ends are not going to short whatever. It's just a safety precaution. I know it looks ugly, but you know, better be safe than sorry. Connecting up the negative. These things can get hot, so kind of careful, yeah. All right, so it is connected. So basically at this point, this Mavic Mini battery got an extension in capacity. That's just a piece of Velcro I stick there. I have the other end on the top of the drone. Stick it in. So satisfying, click. There it is. And just stick it on the top to kind of secure it. Like this, it doesn't interfere with the sensors on the bottom. I prefer this way. You have to make sure that nothing is reaching into the props. There you have it. It works absolutely fine. So with this right now, the Mavic's range, not the range, but the capacity of the battery has been extended by a good 50%, 60%. I think these are 1800 milliamp hours LiPo cells. I prefer LiPo in this case to put on the top additionally because they are sort of lighter than the lithium ion 18650 cells which are already in the battery. Although works fine. Alright, so here is this monster of battery. Now we still need to connect the balance lead to the LiPos. Now it's important to not remove the balance lead. I just kind of strip the insulation here a little bit carefully and thin it up. As you see, I do this far away from the original solder point at the end of the wire because I don't want to heat that part off up and accidentally pop it from the battery terminals because that's disastrous. So on the connected ends of the battery where the series connection is made, I'm just going to solder this wire. And I'm going to connect it to the balance lead, to this stripped part. Really only have this far away from the original thing to not accidentally melt that solder at the end and pop it off the battery. So now even the balance lead is connected in these two additional LiPos. So obviously you have to be careful to make sure that the LiPos are also balanced and they are good condition cells. You see how careful I am to organize the cables so that they don't reach the prop? But I don't notice that the battery on the top is disastrously to the right. And yes, it hit the battery, so I had to adjust it. And then the wire hit on the bottom. It's totally crazy. So adjusting the wire again. And finally, it's just working. So this is the Piggyback version of this battery mod. This is the simplest way of doing it, to just extend the capacity of the battery, but of course this adds additional weight to the drone. So I honestly don't really prefer this mod, but this is one way to go and this is the simplest way to go. As you can see, I can charge the battery in the drone, and after struggling it out somehow, because this is kind of strange like this, of course the cable should be organized a little bit better, I test it with the charging hub. It looks kind of good-ish. Popping it in the hub, as you can already see the charge, and it starts charging. So it works all good. Alright, so next step is that I have to somehow remove the 18650s, the green cells, from the original PCB. So what I do is, I need a solder point which is not too close to the original solder point. So I just start to scratch off the paint from the PCB, because as you see, the ground connection is quite big. It goes all the way to that lower resistor. And I do the same thing here. I know it's shaking a lot, but if you reduce the speed on playback, you can kind of see what's going on here. I just didn't want to keep this video like 2 hours long or something. So I'm just scraping off here some stuff. And I will just check with the multimeter here on continuity mode that those scratched off pads are really connected to the solder pads. I mean, I can see it with my eye, but just to be sure, So these are fine, these are connected. So I should connect these two LiPo cells to those 2 points, which I'm actually just thinning up now. You see, they are as far as possible from the original solder points where the original cells are connected to the PCB. Those 2 thick wires on the battery would be way too thick to solder. It's just too much heat being put into that small spot. So I'm just using some thin gauge wires here. These will be not for power transfer. It's just to make the battery see that there is a charged battery connected to it still. So negative goes there. Very far away from the original solder point. I can't stress this enough. And the positive lead goes on the other side. Amazing thinning work. There you go. To the other side. Good. So now these 2 leads has to be connected to the LiPo cells. Negative to negative. Good, it's connected. And the positive goes to the positive side. I'm just struggling here a little bit with this positive side. I don't know why. It just took way too much heat. Maybe some extra tin would be good. Yeah, let's do that. That is fine. That's very fine. So now it's connected. You gotta be very careful not to touch these 2 points together, because that will make the battery see that there was a sharp voltage drop, and then probably it would just lock. All right, let's test it. I stick it in the drone. I know it's a little bit excessive with these testings, but I just want to see after every step that so far nothing has been screwed up by me. Cables, catastrophe, but fine, it will do. All right, yes, it will not hit. That's good. Let's see how it goes. Oh yeah, that's all fine. Great. Yes, as you can see, the cell voltage is there on the right. I'm still using an older version of the DJI Fly app. I recommend the same for everyone, because later on they changed it, and then it was just not so easy to see the cell voltages on the screen. All right. So this is my suction tool to remove the molten tin from those terminals, because it's time to remove the 18650s, the green cells, from the original battery. And in that case, the only thing which provides the voltage, the charge level to the PCB are those thin wires. That's the only thing why the PCB still thinks that it hasn't been tampered with at all. If I remove those cells and any of those thin wires are coming off, then I'm toast. Then the battery is locked. And I'm sure you have seen a lot of videos about it on the internet. I have done it myself. I locked up 2 batteries. And from there on, it's kind of useless. Or is it? Stay tuned for that. So I'm removing here now the battery, I think. But you see, this kind of metal strip, I think it's a nickel strip, which is being spot welded on the end of the battery, has to be folded up here. And it's so stuck. I mean, this is just... Yeah, it is made in a way so that you don't take this apart. That's the original idea, I guess. But we are just going to zolly this. That's a verb I'm using actually for things which I'm doing in life, which are probably not the conventional way, but you know, it becomes my way. So I zolly things. So things are getting zollied. Here I'm removing the temperature sensor, at least just to free it up. So when I remove this whole black section on the top with the PCB and the leftover plastic, then I don't drag it too much. So using the sharp blade and some tin, I'm bending it up. There, I succeed with it. It's bent up, lovely. So here it is, the moment of truth. Not yet, but here it comes. There it pops loose, and I'm removing it. Just a little glue stuck there, but that's nothing crazy. And there it comes off. Ping. And now I desolder the balance lead at the very end of the wire. Now, really from the battery cell. Not the other one, but the very end. You see, there's no wire left. This is important. I was just amazing with my camera technique, so you didn't see it. And there it is. Now only this LiPo cell makes the PCB believe that we are all fine, no one have done anything to me. But we did. There's the bottom of the PCB. Nice and shiny. Okay. So this is it. Now, I could put these 2 wires on this PCB. And this would be the time for me, after soldering up these tabs here, to put in new 18650 cells, like some VTC6 from Sony or something. You see, I would take the new cells and put them in there. But that's not what I'm planning to do. But if one would like to just change the battery cells to bigger ones, in this point, you could just solder in the bigger cells, remove all the wires later, and you would be all done. But for now, just to show that this battery still works, I'm going to somehow struggle on this positive lead, which is quite a challenge. I mean, of course, I was a little bit nervous to not screw up this board. So hands are sweaty, soldering iron is hot. Yeah, you know the drill. So finally the positive lead is on. And then comes the ground lead. That goes a little better. Lovely. So it's on. All right, so we are connected. Balance lead is of course still connected. So as unlikely it seems, this should be a workable battery. I just removed the thin wires because there is no need for them anymore. Right now the LiPos are connected. This is what you would do after connecting the 18650 cells, the new ones. Of course, special care made for connecting also the balance lead. But here it is. So this is the battery. The two terminals are connected with the thick wires and the balance lead is with the thin wire. If I haven't screwed up anything, then this is a workable battery with replaced cell. Specifically this setup, what I'm having now, as far as the LiPos are lighter than the original cells were, this could be a good setup for payload carrying with the drone. Because of course you can carry way more payload if the battery is lighter than the original. Of course with a shorter distance, but yeah, that's also one thing. That's the original battery, it's out. And the drone works. Yes, it does work. There you can see battery temperature is not valid, of course, because the temperature sensor is in the drone and the cells are outside, but you can see the battery voltages 4.2, 4.02 and 4.04. Not fully in balance, but oh well. So it's working. There is nothing more to it. This is how you change battery cells in a Mavic Mini battery from on a step-by-step basis, because I see it many times on the internet is saying like, yeah, you have to supply the voltage to the board constantly, blah, 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 but no one really shows it actually being done. This is the way how it's done. All right, isn't this odd? Removing the battery, there's nothing inside, just the cap. Anyways, I'm just gonna check it out. How is it with the charging thing? You know, the hub is kind of a touchy thing. But yes, it does work. It is charging. And it is balancing also in the same time. So now I'm gonna stick it back in the drone. You might wonder why that is. I mean, isn't this over, right? We see it works. I just have a little plan here. I'm going to, on purpose, lock this battery. Because I have come up with a way how to make those logged batteries workable so that I can actually fly with them. And I'm going to demonstrate that I am actually not shy of locking this battery here. So there's the screen on the right side. You can see take off with caution, meaning the drone is online and he is totally ready to fly. The battery is in a working condition. So I start it now. Fine adjustments. And here comes the tool of destruction. Not the pick. But this. I'm going to cut the balance lead so that the PCB cannot see anymore that the cells are in balance. Oh crap, I really have to buy some new pliers here. No, not yet. Additional help required. There it goes. Look on the right side of the screen. Immediately, low battery voltage. Battery warning on the right. And the aircraft is offline. That battery is toast. In the next episode, I will show how I can get this locked battery to fly my drone for less than $1. Those are the components have been used to make it happen, and it's really interesting. If you have anything to say or any questions, please leave it in the comments, and how about to give a like or share or subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.